This is Paul Schneiderman today on the 30th edition of Sports and Stuff on Rainier Avenue Radio. Today I have a very special guest. I have the Seattle University Athletic Director, Ms. Shaney Fink. Shaney, I'm going to do a little introduction of you before I start the show and start firing off questions. I customarily do this with my guests. Shaney's been employed at Seattle University as the Athletic Director since 2016, a prominent position. Shaney grew up in California in 1994, UC Berkeley grad, volleyball player at Berkeley, and Shaney was a volleyball coach at USD, University of San Diego, and also a pro volleyball player at one time, I learned. Before coming to Seattle U in 2016, Shaney worked for about 16 years in various positions, University of San Diego. I learned that you were the Senior Associates Athletic Director there and also Senior Woman Administrator. So Shaney has a lot of experience in student services and academic support as well. Today we're going to learn more about Shaney's career, her work at Seattle University as the athletic director, and various issues surrounding college athletics. Now, we only have 27 minutes today, Shaney, so we're not going to get into everything, but I think we'll have fun and get into some conversations. Now, I mentioned this to you off the air before we started the show. I'm a Seattle native. I happen to have a degree from the University of Washington, a law degree from Seattle U, and I am a very big believer that Seattle U has a very esteemed history, not just with sports, but with academics as an institution. It's been selected as a top private West Coast university. And so I think it's very important that Seattle U as an institution be highlighted more in our community. It's definitely on the map, but I want to play a little part here in highlighting Seattle University as an institution, not just the athletic department, but the institution as a whole. But first of all, thank you for coming on Sports and Stuff on Rainier Avenue Radio.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
Absolutely, Shaney. Well, tell us, I want the listeners to learn a little bit more about you, and I do as well. Tell us what motivated you to work in college athletics.
You know, it's a great question, and I think when I look back and there are so many different times that I would have thought that was the beginning of when I would be working in college athletics. I've always been in education. From literally in sixth grade, I coached my first team. So coaching sports and being involved in sports has been a very important part of my life. But it really wasn't until I was playing and coaching and working with some students that I realized that this really was an industry that I was interested in pursuing. I got a master's in counseling and focusing on college student development, and it's really just built from there.
So it sort of evolved from counseling into more college athletics then?
Right, absolutely. And I was working with student athletes, and I had a passion for that. And then each step has really been that it's really resonated with me and the impact you can have by working with, you start with working with a few students, and then you realize the impact you can have as you climb that ladder. And I've just been fascinated with, the community that you can connect with. And so it's really opened up in a real kind of natural progression.
We definitely built up the ladder getting a Division I AD position, so congratulations. Well, Shaney, real quickly, tell us a little bit about playing college volleyball, and tell us about the pro volleyball league you played in.
Absolutely. I loved, had played 3 sports in high school, and, that was, you don't really get to do that so much, and even at that time, it was evolving away from that, and being able to play volleyball at Cal was just a fantastic experience.
Berkeley.
Yep. And it actually really played into when I wasn't playing indoors, I was playing on the sand courts over at Berkeley. I really just have I grew up on the beaches in Los Angeles, and knew I just wanted to keep playing. I think that as the old WPVA opened up in those times, it's now evolved into the AVP. But whatever opportunity I could, it was great to travel and to be able to see different parts of the United States, and then ultimately internationally. It was my study abroad program where I was able to go and play in different parts of Europe, and really just taking the sport as far as I could go.
Was the pro league, Shaney, an outdoor volleyball league or an indoor volleyball league?
Outdoor. So I did a little both. I played a few years on the beach, the 2-person league, and then I played indoor as well, the 6-person in a league in Israel. So really, I took whatever opportunities I could get to
You played in Israel too. I've been there. Interesting. Yeah,
yep,
good,
absolutely.
Good. This is Paul Schneiderman, host of Sports and Stuff on Rainier Avenue Radio with the Seattle University Athletic Director, Shaney Fink. Shaney, real quickly, 30 seconds maybe. How is Seattle University different than University of San Diego? I know they're both great schools, but what are a couple differences you see at the two respective institutions?
There's a lot of similarities in the faith-based, mission-driven university. I think the Jesuit nature of Seattle University is really unique and distinct, and it provides an opportunity to really explore at a different level. I think the authenticity of focus on just being who you are, meeting students where they're at. It's academically rigorous. The community, it's a 125-year-old university, so there's just
the weather's a little different
history.
In Seattle and San Diego.
The weather's a little bit different too, and the alumni base is also the fact that we have 75,000 alumni, and so many of them are right here in Seattle. Really has an impact on the institution.
That's a lot. Well, Shaney, there was a recent Seattle Times article where you and Jen Kohn, your counterpart at University of Washington, were profiled about, and the focus in the article was a lot on the issue of women in college sports, which we're going to talk about. But the article describes the job of a college AD as being football, fundraising, facilities, and finance. I know SU doesn't have a football team, but does that sum up what you do a lot?
It sure does, right? You can interchange that football with basketball, and that is absolutely there's so much to it. And then, really at Seattle U, the interplay with the coaches, the student athletes, and all of that development is also a really important part of what we do.
A lot of what you do is fundraising, facilities, and finance. Okay. Paul Schneiderman again on Sports and Stuff on Rainier Avenue Radio with the CLU Athletic Director, Shaney Fink. I got Daniel Billis, who's my engineer today. I know Daniel. We've been working together now for over a year. Speaking of football, Shaney, could Seattle U ever establish a men's football program?
Could we? Sure. Will we? No.
Probably not. Then.
I don't think that one's in the cards for us. I think we are the programs that we have that fits really well with who we are, size of the institution, where we are in the city. I think we're happy with that. Our program selection.
You just don't. You're not getting a lot of alumni push to try to establish football at Seattle U.
No. Of all the different history that we have at Seattle U, football is not part of it. So I think we're good with that. We have a really strong basketball program. We have strong across the board our programs, and that's really where we'll continue our emphasis.
And football's an expensive sport for university to have too, isn't it?
It is, and facilities wise, it's just a different model, and that's really not the model that we're focusing on right now.
Totally understand. So, Shaney, I read an article that you are one of only about 38 female athletic directors at Division I schools. In the Power 5 conferences, there was only like 5, I believe. So women are obviously underrepresented in college athletic director positions. So many years ago, the National Football League adopted the Rooney Rule, which requires a team interview a minority candidate from any coaching and operational positions. Would you support the NCAA enacting like a Rooney type of rule requiring Division I schools to interview minority women candidates for athletic director and coaching positions?
It's a really interesting question and kind of approach. I do think that, the NCAA a number of years ago instituted the Senior Women Administrator designation, and now there's conversation on is that should we still have that, is that still needed? I know, looking back at my career, having that designation and being part of the NCAA governance and having a seat at the table with conference governance and national governance was really impactful to my career. So I really appreciate that. I do think that we need to make sure that we are opening the doors and pulling people along. And that's an important piece. And if that helps, I think the bigger picture is that we just all need to be really intentional in diversifying our pools of candidates for any position.
I actually read the Rooney type of rule has been suggested for Division I sports and Division I coaching and college AD positions. So anyhow, I appreciate your response. You obviously have some insights. Title IX was interestingly passed during the Nixon administration. Do you feel it's under siege right now in the Trump years?
I think it's important that we continue just to focus on inclusion broadly. So yes, there's always a concern of the impact of the administration at each level. But at the end of the day, it comes down to institutions and where universities doing the right thing and making sure that we're college and sports is a lot about access. That is one of the drivers for having athletic programs is providing access and outreach to different communities. So it's important to stay focused on it.
But you don't go to work every day worried that Title IX is going to be taken away, because I know some people involved in college sports are worried.
Yeah, no, I don't worry about it. I know that every day it's so much a part of my lens and the way that I approach. And I know that there are others. There's lots of challenges, absolutely. But I think that we are on the right track. And the more that we successfully, and work with our student athletes, and the more classes of, student athletes that go through, I think we really are on the right path.
Paul Schneiderman of Sports and Stuff on Rainier Avenue Radio with my special guest, the Seattle University Athletic Director, Shaney Fink. Seattle U obviously has a major men's basketball heritage. For example, in 1956, the Seattle, little history here, the Seattle U team, I think, was the NCAA runner-ups for the national championship with Elgin Baylor as a star, the NBA legend, NBA Hall of Famer. Here's another little trivial pursuit question for people. At one time in the 1960s, Seattle U had more basketball players in the NBA than any other school in America. A little factoid there. So Seattle U Hoops is now back in Division I, Shaney. Is it a realistic goal to get Seattle U basketball up to that real level of like an Elgin Baylor type program?
Absolutely. I mean, I think we have the history. We have the, Seattle, right? Seattle sports, there's a lot of opportunity here. We've got the support from our alumni. We just need to keep kind of moving things forward. So, right, there's some steps between kind of where we were and moving into Division I. We've got the right coach leading us right now. A lot of positive energy around the program. Really good first year for Coach Jim Heyford. And I think people are starting to see it and feel it. So we've got our work cut out for us. We're just going to keep pushing and developing and supporting our student athletes. And I know our alumni would love to see that, those glory days back again.
But you're ambitious. You want CLU basketball as a Final Four type team.
Go bigger, stay home, right?
Okay. You're ambitious. Gotcha. Shaney, I'm going to ask you a couple more questions about CLU men's basketball. Our whole interview won't be focused on purely basketball, but it is certainly kind of the anchor sport on some levels of CLU. But I have a couple more questions I have for you. So in about 2009, CLU basketball started playing at the Key Arena, former NBA arena. It's going to be remodeled. There's news on that front right now. And in an effort, I think maybe that was done in an effort to perhaps urbanize CLU basketball more. But CLU is also playing some games, I believe, at the campus Conley Center. What is the arena future for CLU basketball?
Right. So with the remodeling of Key Arena, we will be at the Red Hawk Center on campus for the next couple of years. We're going to play a couple games at Showware as well. And we're excited about, they're doing a fantastic remodel. We're excited to get back in there when they're back in business in 2 years.
So your campus arena is now the Red Hawk Center, not the Conley Center.
We got renamed
I didn't know that.
Ago,
okay,
yes.
Learn something new all the time. This is Paul Schneiderman again on Sports and Stuff on Rainier Avenue Radio with CLU Athletic Director Shaney Fink. Shaney, you've been the AD, since November 2016?
Yep.
Okay. And I know that at some point after you began at CLU hired Jim Heyford as the men's basketball coach. I believe Cameron Dollar was dismissed. Was that the toughest decision you made so far at CLU?
Absolutely. It was a really, it is definitely part of the job, the hiring and the firing, and it is not the pleasant part of the job. So yes, but it's turned out well. I think that we've really been able to ignite some energy and really take a new path with our, with the entire program that's really been on the tail of our men's basketball program.
But it seems like Mr. Heyford's doing a solid job so far.
He has. He's been great. Really has a sense of, he's a 20-year head coach. So to be able to bring in that kind of experience, especially where we were as a department, his leadership kind of across the board has been really helpful. He's been out in the community. The guys love him. He's very caring, compassionate coach, and he understands that, it's not just the big things, it's not just little things, it's everything that we need to do in order to make this program work.
It was a pretty good year last year for the team as well. So.
Best year since 1964, so we're definitely feeling good about that. By
the way, President Reagan once said he never liked firing people. That's probably tough as an executive having to do that sometimes.
Oh, it's worse. And just, there's real lives on all these people, and I think,
Absolutely.
It's not pleasant, but it's an important decision you got to make.
Exactly. It's a tough, when you're an executive, you've got some tough decisions to make. Okay, Shaney, so Seattle U is currently playing in the WAC, the Western Athletic Conference. At one time, Seattle U was a member of the West Coast Conference. Currently, the members of the West Coast Conference are private, faith-based institutions. Do you think long-term Seattle U could be a better fit regionally, culturally, and demographically in the West Coast Conference?
Right. That's, it's an interesting question, one I get asked all the time. I think we're fortunate to be in the Western Athletic Conference. We're excited about the opportunities there. We expect to perform really well at the top half of at the top of the conference. Certainly the schools in the West Coast Conference are more similar to us in terms of the faith-based and the groups that they connect with. So, that question certainly comes up quite a bit.
It's not just me that's asked you that, okay? I feel better. I wasn't sure. Okay. So it just seems, and again, give me your feedback on this, that if Seattle U had games every year against Gonzaga, University of San Francisco, St. Mary's, it just strikes me that those could be more natural rivals on some levels, though.
Well, you'll notice we have a 4-year agreement playing Portland right now in men's basketball. And I think if you take a look at our schedule, our men's soccer team's actually headed down to LMU in San Diego this week.
Great.
So, yeah, a lot of those, they're the same pool of students that are applying to our schools. Those are our kind of academic rivals. And so you'll definitely see we played St. Mary's last year. There's a kind of intentional effort to align with some of those programs to be able to compete.
Well, Seattle U has an overlap with these various Jesuit West Coast institutions. They just happen in a different conference, which is kind of an irony in a way. But anyhow, well, can you tell us a little bit? Again, this is Paul Schneiderman of Sports and Stuff on Rainier Avenue Radio with Seattle U Athletic Director Shaney Fink. Tell us a little bit what's going on with some other sports at Seattle U other than men's basketball. Take a minute or two and give a quick synopsis.
Absolutely. Last year we had a fantastic year across the board. So our men's and women's soccer programs have traditionally been very strong. Beating University of Washington in the first round of the NCAAs was kind of icing on the cake for our men's soccer program.
That was a big story.
That was, it was a lot of fun. You could see the energy in the city, and kind of just going on the, the energy that surrounded that game, and then after that was a lot of fun. And then the women's basketball team, with the first trip to the NCAAs in our history, and then following that with our baseball and softball teams, both with their most number of wins in history. We're definitely off to a good start. And this fall, we've started off strong. Our volleyball team just finished a game. Right, and
you know a little bit about volleyball, don't you?
I do. Yeah, I love it.
Yep.
And I'm excited about where we're going to head with there. And this Sunday, we have University of Washington on campus in women's soccer at Championship Field. So it's going to be a fun year. We have one of our men's players, Declan McFlynn, just came back from the U19 national team. So we've got some high caliber players, really. It's going to be an exciting year.
A lot of stuff's going on with Seattle U Sports. I love your little kind of state of the union with Seattle U Sports. So
see how much I can get in.
Exactly. Listen, I know you could go on a lot longer, but we're just kind of hitting some different topics today. So speaking of the University of Washington, and you and Jen Kohn have something in common. You're two female athletic directors. I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, that Seattle's the only top 20 metropolitan area to have two female athletic directors in the community. That's kind of unique. So do you have a lot of interactions with Jen Kohn?
She's been great since the first, right when it was announced that I got the position, she had reached out. As much as I like poking at University of Washington, and I love competing against them and wherever we can, beating up on them. They've been great partners, and they're just, really collegial and helpful. And I think that comes from Jen's leadership. But it's such a long tradition of just collegiality between our programs.
The two athletic directors of Seattle and University of Washington have a nice tie then.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So speaking of University of Washington, another question I have about UW is do you anticipate more competitions between CLU and UW as the years go on? It seems like a natural crosstown rivalry there.
Yeah, I hope so. I think it's really important. I think the Seattle deserves that. I think as our programs continue to develop, it's fun. It's really fun when you have, and there's so many of our fans that are both, Huskies and Redhawks, and it's fun to see it all come together.
Yours truly has two of those dual degrees that are going. So, yeah, there's definitely something there. This is kind of a wonky question, but I'm curious to your take on it. If it's too wonky, let me know. But I'm reading that the Trump tax bill has apparently ended season ticket donation deductions. There's a change now in university endowments where there's like a 1.4 tax on capital gains and endowments. Do you anticipate any effects on CLU with those changes?
You said I could say that's a wonky question.
Yeah, exactly. Is that too wonky?
I think for the way that we've set up our development and fundraising efforts, it's not as impactful at Seattle U as it might be for, a Power 5 program that has the licensing fee for their seats and tickets. So it's not on my list of concern. It's not real high up there.
Well, I appreciate your answer because I did read online, putting aside the little joke about it being kind of those couple wonky questions there. I did read online that some college institutions are sort of adjusting how to handle donations now in light of some of those changes. So I was just kind of curious. So.
Yeah, the giving at Seattle U is really more of transformational giving. We're really, people that are investing in our program are investing in the mission of the university. And where those hit is more of the transactional nature when they're, to get seats, to get parking, to get something in return. And really ours is more focused on, promoting what it is that we do in the student-athlete experience.
One thing I read as I was preparing for your show today, Shaney, is that there's actually quite a few Major League Baseball players that play at CLU. I never knew that until a couple of days ago.
Yeah, we've had a great, and
soccer players, pro soccer players? Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, they're coming. We had drafted 4 guys last year, 2 the year before, 4 the year before that. Our men's soccer, Alex Roldan, what a great story to have him come from CLU and be able to play for the Sounders. We had our Stephanie Speakerman's out playing professionally. Alexis is playing professionally at Montgomery on our women's basketball team. So we've got a good, they're doing it. They're taking their sports as far as they can.
Well, as I said at the beginning during the introduction, I'm just a big believer in trying to play my little small role here in publicizing CLU athletics a little bit more because there's a lot going on. This comes up a lot. You probably get asked this question, but it's coming up a lot. Any thoughts on paying college athletes, Shaney?
It does come up a lot. I think the really important thing for us to do is to really make sure that everybody understands what the value of the experience is, right? So you're going to, for any student that goes to Seattle U, and the unique kind of Jesuit education that you get, there's a great value to that. And when you do that as a student athlete, you also have, in addition to the academic rigor, you have all of the life lessons and everything else that you're getting out of that experience. And I think it's really important piece for us to really, make sure that is front and center.
Are you open-minded to the idea of college athletes being paid, or?
I've found in this business it is, and it took me a while to learn this, but it is best to be open-minded to everything because things tend to turn, and you've just got to adjust on the fly and keep looking for the opportunities and whatever is next.
I know the idea has come up with college programs that maybe more stipends for athletes in lieu of college pay, like more meal expenses, things like that. Could you be open to some compromise on
Well, I think there's already some initial steps in that regard with the cost of attendance and with the flexibility on being able to pay for meals and other kind of educational components that go with it. So the rules have definitely opened up, and I think for the better. And I think the more kind of practical application we get for these things, however you can support the students in a really positive way is really the end goal. So, you do need to be right as with our focus. We want to be able to compete across the board, and it does get to a point where if you're paying student athletes and all these other pieces, at some point, you got to focus on what it is what your mission is and why you do what you do, and stick with that instead of getting carried away with the other pieces.
And paying student athletes presents some possible Title IX challenges, and whether like basketball, football players be paid more than track star athletes. There's all sorts of
Yeah, it's
complexities.
Absolutely, it's definitely complex.
Not an easy topic. There's some gray areas to it. Real quickly, any thoughts on more health insurance protections for college athletes? I know there was some talk about colleges adopting more of a workers' compensation style system where college athletes can receive health insurance for the rest of their lives. Are you open to more protections for athletes, like with healthcare, for example?
Yeah, and I think we have to look at each part of the student-athlete experience and make sure that we are supporting the students. It's a different model when you're talking about a Seattle U versus one of the Power 5 programs. I mean, the financial model is different, the missions are different, but at the end of the day, we're all about developing student-athletes and supporting student-athletes. So I think we need to look at each of those and figure out kind of what is a reasonable, sustainable way to move forward.
Well, I can tell you're open-minded on all these questions, and it seems like you're an evaluator. You weigh out and you figure out how best to proceed.
Almost to a fault.
Yeah, right. Okay. Well, I think that's a good skill to have. Well, I'm really enjoyed, Shaney, having you on. And can you tell us a little bit about what's in the future for Shaney Fink and Seattle University Athletics?
Really excited.
We got a minute or two left, Daniel. Okay, go ahead.
Moving forward, I think telling our story. So this is great. It's great to be on today. I think the more people know about Seattle U and our mission, getting people to come to it, we're going to have a great season. I think being at the Red Hawk Center is going to make it really fun. So just getting people on campus is the key, because once you're on campus, once you start talking to our student athletes, once you start talking to our alumni, you're sold. So that's really going to be our focus, is how we can keep sharing, what we're doing and engaging the community.
Is there anything unique to your department going on in the future you want to share?
I don't know that unique. We're out there. You're going to see us in every part of the community. When you get an opportunity to connect with, whether we're at out in the community engagement, please do, because that is definitely an important part of who we are and what we do.
Well, Shaney, we're winding down right now. It's just been a real pleasure to have you on Sports and Stuff on Rainier Avenue Radio, and I hope we can stay in touch, and I hope our station can develop some more ties to Seattle University and your athletic department. Thank you for coming on my show.
Thank you.